books to read in 2025 that changed my life in 2024. That is what I am so excited to talk with you all about today. My name is Magdalene. I came back to the Catholic Church a couple years ago, right towards the end of my time in undergrad as a college student, and I am now currently a mental health counselor. I went to school for psychology and mental health counseling, so I've been doing a lot of reading, specifically once I came back to my faith, which really overlapped quite perfectly with when I started diving into psychology and mental health. I am so excited to share with you all my absolute top books from this year that I read that hopefully can have as great of an impact as they had on me on you. To be totally honest, you guys, I don't read a lot of genres of books. It's very, very limited, but that's because I have two extreme passions when it comes to reading and in life in general, and that is mental health and sort of self-development, self-improvement, wellness, and the faith, the Catholic Church, and spiritual life. I am going to start by discussing my top sort of mental health related books, and then I'm going to end with my spiritual life and faith related books. Now, these are in no particular order. I'm just going to go through and give you guys some pointers about what I liked so much about the books, who I think would get a lot out of these books, and a couple other key points. So let's dive right into the sort of relational and wellness and mental health books. The first book is called Cognitive Behavioral Therapy Made Simple: 10 Strategies for Managing Anxiety, Depression, Anger, Panic, and Worry. This book is written by Scott Gillihan. He has a PhD, and here is the book. I came across this book because I just recently finished up my master's in mental health counseling, and as I was going through the program, I was really trying to find a book that was very comprehensive and covered a lot of the CBT techniques and theories that I was being trained in my program. And I have come to discover the incredible power of CBT and the impact that it can have on anybody. And so I really wanted to find a book that was able to go in depth into a lot of these techniques for a variety of different concerns and diagnoses, but that would be very easily readable for anybody, not just a client, right? I really was hoping to find a book that I could recommend to clients as something that they could reference on their own time, just for a little booster, maybe after therapy has ended. So I was looking for a book like that, but I was also looking for the kind of book that I could recommend to friends and family who were asking about a lot of what I was getting trained in, so that they could use some of the techniques that I had learned to be able to implement in their own life. So I was so excited when I found this book. I'm really impressed with a lot of what it covers. It covers so many topics, and it really does a great job at explaining CBT and its various techniques and applying it to a variety of diagnoses and variety of issues that you might be facing. It skips a lot of the hardcore jargon, and it does a good job at just explaining it very easily and simply. I would recommend this to anybody who is currently seeking to maybe boost their mental health a little bit, or just learn some techniques, some tricks to help manage worry or stress or the way that they think, to help that negative thinking patterns. If you just want a handy reference to turn to when you're struggling a little bit in a variety of areas, I highly recommend this book. And also, it's a great book to flip through if you're considering going to therapy and you would like to maybe have a therapist who is trained in CBT. If you look through this book, you'll get a really good idea at what kind of treatment you might expect to receive if you were to see a CBT therapist. I have only one issue with this book. It is for my fellow Christians out there. Throughout this book, there are a few times when some non-Christian references are made. Specifically, I'm talking about references to yoga, relaxation techniques like that simply do not align with our faith. So I would just say, if you're going to buy this book, please do be aware that there are some references made to some non-Christian principles, some non-Christian ideas. So read this with a grain of salt, and certainly stick to your values. Skip over those parts like I do. Take everything else, because everything else is so valuable. Okay. Now I have one more mental health and relationship related book to share with you guys. This one also is quite life-changing, and I'd highly recommend it to really anybody and everybody. And this is Difficult Conversations How to Discuss What Matters Most by Douglas Stone, Bruce Patton, and Sheila Heen. I actually came across this book because it was recommended by a friend, and I was really staying away from more like trendy books, but I was like, you know what, this one sounded really helpful and really great, so I decided to give it a shot. And what I really like about this book is that it really goes into detail, giving you examples, giving you tricks and tips on how to approach difficult conversations, how to approach communication in a way that is more effective. So I would highly recommend this book to anyone who is looking for some tricks, some tips to navigate more difficult conversations, whether it's with a boss, whether it's with a parent, a significant other. It's really helpful to enhance conflict management skills and just conversational skills in general. If you are somebody who struggles to convey your emotions to your significant other, to share your feelings, to set boundaries verbally, to be assertive with people, and struggle to really convey your actual, real, deep needs and desires, I would highly recommend this book. On this channel, I speak primarily to the ladies out there, and I found as a lady myself that this book was super helpful, especially as someone who used to struggle with communicating what I really felt and really thought, and it's still a journey for me. I still work on this, as we all have to, but this book has been a really great companion to really boost my confidence in expressing my needs and not feeling bad about it, being able to accept whatever happens, because at least I've tried my best to kindly, gently, and vulnerably express how I really feel and what I really think. So this is another book that I will absolutely recommend to clients if they are struggling with assertiveness, any relationship concerns as far as communication. So I highly recommend this book. Next, let's move into the spiritual and faith-based books, my absolute favorites from 2024, starting out with a book that literally shook me to my core and continues to do so to this day. It is The End of the Present World and the Mysteries of the Future Life by Father Charles Armanjon. I came across this book actually through reading other books this year, where this book was referenced as having been one of Saint Therese of Lisieux's life-changing reads in her own life. You can actually see the quote here at the bottom of this book with Saint Therese in the corner. Reading this book was one of the greatest graces of my life. This is a direct quote from Saint Therese of Lisieux. I believe this was actually the book that she said was kind of the final kicker for her before she decided to join a religious order. So clearly had quite an impact on her, and it certainly had an incredible impact on me as well. If you're looking for basically a wake-up call book that is going to really remind you powerfully of eternity, of our goal and our mission here on earth, and God's incredible, unbelievable love for us and his mercy for us, but also the realities of darkness and evil in this world, this book is absolutely for you. Also, if you just love Saint Therese like I do, or if you are familiar with Saints Louis and Zélie, her parents, then I would just super duper recommend reading this book, as it kind of helped me put Saint Therese in a better, more broad context. It allows me to understand her more as well. This book just really kind of hit home and is a little bit frightening at times, I will say. That is not to say that the emphasis on God's love for us is not so prominent throughout this book. So I would highly recommend this to anyone who probably is a little bit further along on their faith journey, because I do think that if I had read this book as soon as I came back to my faith, I may have been a little bit too frightened maybe, and it may have actually been harmful to me. If you have already been doing a lot of learning already about the faith and your prayer life is quite strong, then I would certainly say read this book. It will change your life. And this next book is nice because it's a little bit smaller than the rest of them. It's a much faster read, and it even has some images throughout. It is called Domestic Monastery by Ronald Rolheiser. I came across this book actually at the beginning of this year when I was on a retreat. The monastery had a little bookstore, so I was perusing through what they had, and this book just struck me immediately. I knew I had to get it. Something that had been kind of nagging away at me was this desire for religious life and this desire for a marriage and family. And so when I came across this book, I was struck just automatically by the title, because domestic monastery sounds incredible. To be able to combine monastic life with domestic life and marriage and family, I just knew I had to read it. This book does exactly that. It dives into how we can have both and how monastic life can really intertwine itself into family and marriage life if you are very intentional about it. It just really helps to remind me, at least, and hopefully you too, if you are called to be a wife and mother, that this vocation is so beautiful and can lead to sainthood, just as a religious vocation can also lead to sainthood. Really great reminders in this book. Like I said, it's very, very short. It is not a long read. I actually remember when I read this book, I wrote in my journal, I am buying this book for my future husband if I am called to married life, so that we can each have one of these, because I felt that it was so profound and so helpful. If you're in that position where you're just trying to navigate maybe married life, maybe you're already in a relationship or married, or you're trying to figure out maybe which vocation is for you, maybe you're still discerning religious life versus married life, I would just recommend reading this book because it's so beautiful and it really helps put into perspective the overlap of both vocations. And the last book that I have for you all today is the most recent book that I read, and that is Trustful Surrender to Divine Providence, The Secret of Peace and Happiness by Father Jean-Baptiste Saint-Jour and Saint Claude de la Colombière. Hopefully I did not totally destroy those names. This book was on my radar for a long time. Multiple months, if not over a year or more, where I knew I wanted to read this. I knew I needed to get this book in my hands, but it just took longer than I thought that it would. And finally, actually on my birthday, if you all watched my birthday vlog, it was when I visited a monastery and actually went to their bookstore and came across this book. It was the last one on the shelf. I said, okay God, if you're telling me I need to buy this book, then I'll buy it. And it actually came out price-wise to the exact amount of money that I had on me, which was just a $10 bill crisp. That's all I had, and it was exactly the cost of this book. So I had to buy it. I had been hearing about this book from numerous podcasts and other books as well, so that's why it was on my radar to begin with. Like the last book I just shared with you all, it is very short. It is not a long read. I prolonged it because it was really beautiful and I wanted to take time to really meditate and really just soak in each little chunk. And each little chunk, as I say, is really only a page or two long. You know, you don't have to go in order necessarily as you read this book. I would highly recommend this if you are just looking to grow in your deep trust and surrender to God's plan for you. Then this book is absolutely going to help you, especially if you are going through any sort of suffering, or life isn't exactly going as you planned, or there's just any time in your life currently or in the past where you have found yourself wondering, what is God doing? I'm feeling confused. This isn't what I thought he had in store for me. This isn't what I want. Highly recommend. And also, if that hasn't happened to you yet, it is pretty safe to say that at some point, probably in your future, you're going to come across a situation where you are wondering, like, God, what is your plan for me? This isn't what I thought. This book is such a fabulous reference to just remind us of God's beautiful plan, even though it might not look like a good plan, right? It might involve suffering, it might involve hardship. But again, in this amazing book, it really helps us to remember that even the hard times, even those difficult moments of suffering are still part of God's plan, and there is beauty beyond it that we just can't see, and that he's using that to actually fulfill his ultimate will for us. And for us ladies who are striving to grow in our feminine energy and embrace our femininity, I also think this book is going to be really useful for you, because again, surrendering is such a core part of feminine energy and femininity, right? Surrendering to a higher power, specifically to God. So this book is going to really help you grow specifically in that virtue of surrender. Highly recommend this. So friends, that is all for today. Those were my 5 favorite, absolute best books of 2024 that quite literally changed my life from my spirituality, my spiritual life, my faith, to also my mental health, my relationships with others. So if you are looking to grow in any of those areas, which I assume if you're watching this video and if you are subscribed to my channel, then probably the answer to that is yes, then I highly recommend that you check out some of these books. And what a perfect time to explore some of that as the new year comes around. What a perfect time to dive into growing in some of these areas. I will have all of the books linked in the description below so you can go ahead, check them out for yourself. These could make for amazing Christmas gifts or birthday gifts to others in your life who maybe could benefit from these, or for yourself if you're looking again to enhance your mental health, your spiritual life, your relational life. I'm going to be uploading a video kind of on a similar theme, but it's going to be my absolute most favorite Catholic apps of 2024 that could really enhance your spiritual life in 2025. So stay tuned for that. I will see you all in my next video. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye everybody.